It's early October here in Zone 3, Minnesota, which means that's the perfect time to get our garlic planted into the ground. And garlic planting time is always very exciting, but it is pretty easy to get carried away with the excitement and miss a few key steps. So what I'm going to do today is bring you with so you can see how I get my garlic planted, and we're going to talk through the 7 most common mistakes that I see people making when it comes to planting garlic. So a lot of my plants are still here, so I had to do some creative garden planning to figure out where I can plant my garlic that also makes sense for my garden plan for next year, because the garlic is going to be in the ground until about July is when I'll harvest it. So I've chosen this row here, which means before we can even get to planting, I need to clean this up. I'm tired already and we haven't even started planting yet. So the last step to prep this space is to add some compost. So I would typically add about 1 inch or so, maybe 2, especially since this is a new garden space, to the top and kind of work it in. But the problem is we just moved to this new homestead just a few months ago. So I have my new compost bin set up, but the compost is still in its infancy. So it's far from being finished. So I don't have any compost ready today. So I'm going to have to go back to my raw milk farm to get their composted cow manure, which was awesome. I put it in my garden in the spring, but I don't have it today. So we'll just go ahead and plant it. And then when I get some more from them, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, then I can just add it on top. No big deal. Okay, so as we go through the different steps of planting, we're going to also talk about those 7 common mistakes that I see people make when it comes to planting the garlic. So mistake number 1 starts before we even get to the planting. It's the type of garlic that we're using. So you definitely don't want to just go to your grocery store and grab whatever garlic they have available and plant that. The reason why that is several things. One is grocery store garlic can often be sprayed with things to keep it from sprouting, and that's exactly what we want to happen when we plant it in our garden. So if you plant grocery store garlic, there's a good chance that nothing's going to happen. The other thing with grocery store garlic is it could be a variety that is suited for maybe even a tropical location. And if you're like me in Zone 3 Minnesota, we need a good hardy kind of garlic that is going to withstand the winter, because we're planting in October. So these guys need to stay alive, buried in the soil when it's negative 30 degrees out, and then pop up like daisies in the spring. So it's important that you're buying seed garlic. So even though it sounds like a seed garlic is just the term that refers to bulbs of garlic meant for planting. And there's a lot of different varieties out there. I love music garlic. And the cool thing about garlic is you only have to buy it once. And so I bought one tiny little bag many years ago, planted it all. And then when I harvested it in July, every clove that you plant becomes an entire bulb. So it's going to keep multiplying as long as you keep planting it ahead of time. So actually my first 2 years, I didn't eat any of my garlic. I just dumped it all right back into the garden. And so now I have a huge surplus of garlic, so I can plant a bunch, I can save a bunch, I use a bunch with my canning and just fresh storage. Mistake number 2 is not planting at the right time. Typically people think that it should be planted in the spring, just like everything else. Garlic is the only thing that we'll be planting in the fall. So the ideal time is to plant it about 1 month before your ground actually freezes. So not your first expected frost. Mine is mid-September. So we're long past that. We're talking about when the ground actually freezes hard. So early October seems to be pretty good for me, because by early November, things should be getting a little crunchy. All right, now let's move on to planting. So mistake number 3 that I see people making is picking the wrong bulbs to plant. You can see this one's pretty big where this one's pretty small. So these small ones are best just to save for fresh eating. So this one I'm gonna bring in the house and just enjoy cooking with it. The big ones we wanna save for planting, because that's gonna end up with the biggest bulbs next year. So mistake number 4 comes with actually preparing the garlic for planting. So you definitely don't want to just go planting the entire bulb. We're going to split it out into cloves, but there is an art form to it. So we are going to peel some of the protective outer layers off, but not all of it. Sometimes I'll catch people completely peeling the garlic cloves like you would if you were going to cook. We don't want to do that. We want to leave some of the protective coatings on. So I'm pretty gentle with this. I take my time. I don't want to gouge, you know, any of the protective skins. And so I just kind of keep working and peeling off the outer layers until I can start kind of visualizing each of the individual cloves and then just gently breaking them apart. So the important thing is that all of the skins stay intact. So thankfully they are all coming off pretty good so far, but sometimes when you split them apart, the skins will stick and then the fleshy part of the garlic clove will be exposed. Those are no good for planting. If that happens, and it does, I'm sure we'll uncover some along the way, I just stick them in my pocket and then use them for fresh cooking. We want these nice protected cloves for planting. The other thing I love about this music garlic is the cloves are huge. I mean, look at these, and I do not have dainty little lady hands, so these are just beautiful. I can't even wait. Mistake number 5 is spacing. Garlic should be planted 6 inches apart from each other. And I like to make it super simple with this little cardboard square. And so you can whip this up with any cardboard you have laying around. And what I like to do is lay it down and then space out my garlic cloves accordingly, and it makes it super slick. So I like to do this step first and then go ahead and plant them all. Mistake number 6 is not planting them in the right direction. There is a right way up. So you can see this is the bottom flat section. We're gonna place this flat side down with the pointy side up because this is where it's gonna sprout and come up. So we wanna help it out by getting it set in the right direction. And the other key piece is making sure that we're digging it deep enough. So about 2 inches deep is where we wanna put this bulb. So the 7th and final step that sometimes gets missed by people is mulching. So we don't want to just walk away from these bulbs. They're pretty hardy, but they're still delicate. So we need to protect them with some mulch so that they survive and thrive after a long, brutal winter. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few inches of mulch, and that is it. Then we are good to go. We cross our fingers and we wait to see what comes up in the spring. An important note I should make about the mulch is I love to use straw, but not any straw, organic straw. If you just go to your local gardening center or landscaping center, there's a good chance that the straw bales that they have there have been treated with herbicides. And I don't know about you, but I definitely don't want those chemicals in my garden. So what I've done to find organic straw is I just hop on Facebook Marketplace, search around, and I can often find a few farms around. Now, granted, I usually have to drive a little bit, about an hour or so, but I get a handful of bales and then I'm set for a long time. So it's worth the extra effort to me. And the other neat thing about organic straw is you can keep reusing this. This is organic straw that I laid in my garden to mulch around my plants in the spring, and I'm just going to use it again to cover my garlic and other sensitive perennials this fall. So I'm gonna mulch around my rhubarb, my herbs that should hopefully come back, that type of a thing. So you can definitely get more than one use out of it. Well, that was super fun. So we just did a little corner together. I'm gonna go ahead and keep going down this entire row, and then I'll probably water it in. We've been getting a lot of rain in the past week, but I don't think we have any more rain in the forecast, which is probably a nice thing. I'm ready for it to dry out a little bit, but we do want to make sure that these bulbs sprout a little bit to get that kind of growing action going and before they go dormant for winter. It was so fun having you here. Thanks for coming along on the garlic planting adventure. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'll also link my favorite music garlic if you want to check it out, and that is my affiliate link. If you're willing to use that, I'll always appreciate it. And this is just the beginning of all the exciting things happening here on our new 240-acre homestead. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. Thanks for being here.